Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Martin Semken from Semken Landscaping. So Martin is an absolute icon of the industry. He started Semken Landscaping 35 years ago and he does construction and maintenance, and it's got a lot of designers that he works with, and was the first Australian construction team to head over to the Chelsea Flower Show. And he's also been involved with the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show just about every year, the 25 years it's been going. So we talk about the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show a bit in this chat, and that's what MIFGS is. For anyone who doesn't know, it's MIFGS. But something that is really evident about talking with Martin is how much he cares about the business and treats everyone like family who works for his business. So he's got more than 80 staff. So the fact that he has got that much care for so many people is an amazing effort. And like I spoke to him about it, and he said some people might not realise it at the time, might not think that, but like I said to him, you can't sort of just be fluffy with everyone all the time and give them whatever they ask for. Sometimes you've got to have some hard conversations. So that's no different in business as it is family. It was fascinating hearing how on the maintenance side of things, they had about 300 clients they were looking after, and then COVID happened to drop down to like 10% less. So it was about 270. And then since then, because the industry's boomed so much, is now around more than 600 clients for the maintenance side of things, which is just wild to think about. And I loved how he sends his apprentices, the majority of the apprentices, to do study horticulture rather than study landscape construction. So even though if they're doing a landscape construction apprenticeship, he'll send them to study horticulture because he can teach them the construction side of things on site, whereas it's more valuable to learn the horticultural side of things like soil conditions and irrigation and all the plant knowledge as well, and plant biology. So that was fascinating to hear about. And also I loved how he's having that many staff. They're not all full-time staff, so he's got a lot of flexible working days and hours in there, which is probably vital to do, to have that many. And it's a good way to think about doing things even for smaller companies. So you might be trying to find someone to come on full-time, but it's obviously hard to employ staff at the moment. But you might be better off having two people on 2 days a week, or 1 2 days a week, 1 3 days a week, because there might be someone looking for that kind of work that's a bit more flexible, because they might have looking after their kids on the other 3 days or whatever. So it's not a bad idea to think more flexible about how you choose staff, and not just choose the Monday to Friday 7:30 to 3:30 every day kind of thing. So there's a lot to learn from Martin in this chat, because he's obviously got a lot of business knowledge, having been doing it for 35 years. So I absolutely loved this chat with Martin. So hopefully you do as well, and hopefully you enjoy this chat with Martin Semken. Martin, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
I started in 1977 as an apprentice gardener for the city of Ringwood. I finished year 12 or HSC or whatever it was back then, and got accepted into uni at Dookie Agricultural College and deferred. And my mum found an ad in the paper for an apprentice gardener with the city of Ringwood. So I applied and got the job, and had a fantastic boss and loved every minute there, and got to do so many great things and learn irrigation of ovals, all sorts of incredible. It was a really progressive place to be. It was building and growing. So I did garden maintenance, landscaping, build ovals, lots of things that, drainage, all sorts of things that have set me up forever.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I've heard like a lot of those councils don't do that anymore, because they'll get someone to come in and do the drainage, and then someone else to do this and that. So that would have been good to learn.
Yeah, I think I was the last of that era type thing. So come, summertime, before end of footy season, we'd top dress all the ovals and use the machinery, and did a lot of logistics, and so none of the ovals had irrigation when I started. So I would have irrigated 25 ovals and things like that. So it was an awesome opportunity. Ringwood has a clock tower that we paved, so we did landscaping and gardening and attentive to, planted annuals, all sorts of old school great things that have just never left me as great journeys. And it's a different era. I worked with a lot of guys that had gone to the war and things like that, and they'd come off farms. So their skill set was just so incredible that it was great to learn fencing. We had this old farmer that was just great fun to work with. And it was a really great apprenticeship. I still sort of have such great memories of it.
I imagine the work ethic of people would have been a lot better back then as well.
It was always impressive. We had, like anywhere, you had one or two guys that had been to war and had their issues with alcohol and things like that. And the council was a great place for them to recover. But there's still guys there that I've never seen anyone work as hard as that they did. But just incredible old guys that just worked and worked and worked. And back then, there was only the boss qualified, me as an apprentice, and the apprentice before me. So there's only 3 qualified people out of 60, but so many of them were carpenters or just different skills. So, it's like landscaping to me is the most complete trade. You've got to be able to do everything. And back then, we didn't get an electrician to fix anything. We did it ourselves. And so many of those things have given multi-skills to this day. But the work ethic was great. They were, just terrific old people. And, there wasn't very many young people. They were all older. It was just great fun. And they treated me fantastically.
And where to after that? Like, how long were you there for?
I was there 7 years, and I then became head gardener at Presbyterian Ladies College in Burwood there, and that was a fantastic experience also to become the boss. It was a 50-acre, 5 staff, and I absolutely loved that, but I had never worked in the one place where I turned up to work every day. So to me, it felt like a factory. So I'd obviously always just driven around and gone to different jobs next week, which is what landscapers really do. So I would have stayed there 18 months, 2 years maybe. And then I became assistant superintendent of parks at the city of St Kilda. It was at a great time where probably half my journey I was transplanting palm trees onto the foreshore, and it was in a really developmental phase, and I had 50 odd guys that worked under me. The superintendent was a political type person, so we never saw him, so I ran the whole program and absolutely loved every minute of it. Learnt skills of being the boss as a young person and fantastic like that, and felt that councils weren't going to be around long, which was the start of the amalgamation and them subcontracting out and not having staff anymore. So I left then and started Semken Landscaping.
Oh.
So that's the day the stock market crashed, 1987.
That's good timing.
Fantastic timing. Semken's obviously my surname, and my great friend and financial advisor and terrific friend through life said, let's use Semken as the name someone might recognise because they knew you on the council or stuff like that, and you might get a job. And it doesn't really sound like, someone's surname really unless you know it. So it had the developmental, and we won one of our biggest contracts because someone knew my surname, and still to this day, that's been a really good way of people finding out who we are.
Yeah, a lot of people say you shouldn't use a surname, your name for the business because then you might want to sell it. But there's a hell of a lot of work you're going to be doing before you're going to sell it. So
correct. For us, it's now 35 years of getting work out of my name and the name of the business.
Yeah.
And it's become the name of the business. I introduced myself as Martin from Semken Landscaping. So I had a lady the other day, I was fixing some sprinklers for her, and she said, "Oh, yeah, you're very prompt and on time." I was, "Oh, that's terrific." And she was asking me some questions, and she said, "Oh, and how long have you worked for the business?" I go, "Oh, quite a while." She had no idea that I was the owner, run it, whatever. And that's a good thing, because I don't need her ringing me every week to fix a tiny sprinkler. But it just proves that the name, look, I think it's a great thing to do. It's been beneficial to us, but you're right. There's a long time from the start to selling the business. So, so that's it. So then 6 months into the business, my best friend, Mark Bents, joined as a partner. I sold him half the business for a trailer. It's a tandem, by the way, and a slab of beer. And he drank more of the beer than I did, and the trailer rusted out years ago. So I still feel like I ripped him off, though. So that's the real second start of the business is April 11th, 1988. So, and so that started the growth of the business. Did
you have any employees on before he came on?
Yeah, two. Two young guys. I've always had the thought that you need more people than just me and one other guy and stuff like that. So growth has always been the backbone of the business's agenda. It's always grown. It has kept growing. It's always will. Yeah.
And did you have any visions when you started on how you wanted the business to be? Like if you wanted to be, did you have goals or anything?
No, not at the start. At the start, a few years later, I had a friend who got us to do some work. He's in the industry still, and he called us shit year landscapes. Can we do that? Shit, yeah, we could do that. So some of the things that we would have done in our early days, you remember, as I said, we started the business in the recession. So if someone needed their house painted, we painted it. If we didn't have anything else to do, we painted our house. We dug graves for quite a few years at a few different cemeteries. So the agenda was to work. Yeah. And it didn't matter what that work was, we worked. We always had employees. We've never not had staff. And I call it splitting the atom is what it is. So originally, we used to do a lot of work for a company called Aquafield, installing irrigation. So I used to dig the trench and glue the pipe, and then thought, oh, gee, someone else could dig the trench and I could glue the pipe, and we could do 2 jobs this week instead of 1. And then, gee, once he gets sick of digging trenches, he'll be very conscientious about gluing pipe. So he can do that, and I can go and get the next job. So, and then I would do the invoicing or the quoting, and then, gee, if we get someone to help in the office, they can do that. So we just always kept splitting the atom.
Yeah.
We split the crew, build the crew, split the crew, build the crew, split the crew. It's still been the philosophy. We've had, I'd hate to think how many apprentices and how many businesses have been born out of Semken Landscaping, but it's a lot of great. I still think that's one of the great things, that we help train someone up in lots of different ways, and they either become really great at our business or they go on and start their own great business. And I'd love to help them with all sorts of information if they need it. So that growing other people's businesses is just as enjoyable as growing our own.
Yeah. Yeah. When I spoke with Ian Barker, he said he had some people who, like, they started as an apprentice, then train on, and then they go out on their own, and then they end up coming back in because they realise it's not as easy as they first thought. You had the same thing?
Oh, yeah, we've got a few of that. Look, we've got a lot of staff. Hard to remember exactly how many, by the way, but it's not something I count every day. But we've got over 20 people that are over 25 years with us. All of them have left at some point and come back. Yeah, so Dave, who's with us, who's 45 this year, he started as an 18-year-old and went off, did his own business, came back. His best friend, Shane, same thing. And they're back. They've been back a while, but it's good for them to go.
Yeah.
And it's better for them to stay and be around. I mean, they're part of the family, but it's a great way to have people leave, come back to the security. It's a terrific part of it. I mean,
yeah. It says a lot about you and your business as well. If, when people leave, you're not just cracking the shits with them and saying, rack off.
No. I think it's good for them to go and grow, and some grow into their own fantastic businesses, but others, come back. It's a good place, and it's good for them, good for us. So it's a fantastic industry. I can't speak more highly of. I thank my mum. My mum passed away not long ago, but I thank her every day for sort of being the inspiration to join this industry. So, yeah.
So when Mark came on, what was his skill sets and what was his role in the business?
Oh, yeah, it's a really interesting part of the great question, by the way. So Mark, he worked for Telstra for 10 years. So the reason he started in the April, he waited till he got his long service leave. So just as a bit of security. And he had always had, came from Warrandyte, from a family that were bushwalkers, real hardworking family. So he had lots of hardworking skills, but he'd spent 10 years in a business type environment. So he added a business acumen to the company, plus a hard work is still pound for pound. I was just talking to an ex-employee today who runs his own successful business. He said, the trouble is, if someone's not working hard enough, I push him out of the way and start working. Mark had that. If you weren't shoveling hard enough, it just gently pushed you out of the way and started shoveling. So he had this really hard work ethic, but brought business to us, real sort of proper structure. And that's when we set up 5-year plans and things like that with a couple of friends who really sat down and worked out where we would go in the business. He also then went to night school to become a qualified horticulturalist. So, which is pretty, bringing up 3 young girls, working 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. The easiest way to make more money is to work harder and longer. And we were fit and young, and that's what we used to do, work every day of the week. So to then go to night school on top of that was a fantastic sort of thing. So he became qualified, but he brought hard work. Again, it was a splitting. We had 2 owners, so we could do twice as many jobs. So it was the start of building a bigger business, and then we sat down and worked out this work plan, 5-year plan that was about growth. So it was an ability to bounce off each other and have great faith and trust. So they were fantastic things. I suppose I jumped forward. 20 years later, Mark got leukemia, and 9 months later passed away. So massive hole, still is to this day. We talk about him every day. The structure of the business has always been a family business, whilst we've got a lot of people that are staff who think they're family, and we hope they think they do. But Mark's got, until just recently, Mark's wife just retired from the business, Mandy, and his daughter works here. She replaced her mum in the admin part of the business. He's got 4 nephews here. I've got a daughter, 2 brother-in-laws, 2 nephews, and a great nephew, as well as other people that are just long-term staff members. So probably that's what Mark brought, is business acumen and then this family culture.
Yeah, and then that speaks to the staff returning as well. That's the same.
Yeah, it's a cycle of life that we love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so when you were on the Landscape Victoria podcast, you said you had 75 staff at that time. Do you reckon it'd be more?
It'd be a couple more than that now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It just blows me away.
Yeah, I think it's a bit, well, why can I not put my finger on it? The world's changed, Joel, in 35 years. We have some staff that work 1 day a week, some that work 2, some that work 3, some that work 4. One of our admin staff lives in Phillip Island and she's been to the office twice in a couple of years since she's been here. One of our other ladies works in Warrandyte and never comes to the office. But yeah, so it's over 80, but as I say, and we just recently put a new guy on and he was only available 3 days a week, and that's the modern world. 20 years ago, if someone said to me, you got 3 days a week, I'll keep looking for a job, mate. We want someone 5 days a week. Now I fully understand that that's the modern world, and it's good. I've got no problem with it. We've got quite a few of our guys that have 1 day off a week because their partner works and they don't want their child to go to childcare 5 days of the week. And we've got one of our other girls, she's 3 days a week. She's pregnant. She'll go off and have a baby and come back. There'll be a second one, and she's a part of the family. She keeps the car while she's away and things like that. So, we're trying to help people's lives. So it's well over the 80 mark now, but it's a bit harder to count than it was 20 years ago because
absolutely.
There'd be 20 of them that vary in their employment.
Yep. And I spoke to, there's the landscape down here I know pretty well, and I spoke to him, and we were talking about it, when you have staff off sick. Like he said, if you've got for every 3 staff you've got, you need to allow 1 day a week that one of them is not going to be there because they'll be sick or whatever. So even though they work 5 days a week, not everyone's there 5 days a week all the time anyway. So
and probably the beauty of allowing someone to work 3 or 4, it probably reduces the number of times that you're inconvenienced. You've probably got a better ability to plan. So it sort of works both ways. But the people off sick is still the greatest, hardest thing to balance. Just always happens on the desperate day, but that's all right.
So when did you get maintenance involved with the business? Was that early on?
Yeah, really early on. You got to remember, I come from a horticultural background, I'd say. Our first landscape was a big job, well bigger than our capacity and ability. I had a brother who was a policeman, and he had lots of his police mates work shift work. So I was able to build a workforce to build a job much bigger than our capacity and ability with these police officers, 3 this day, 5 tomorrow, some on Saturday, pay them cash. It's a long time ago. And that job loved what we did. We were there for months and months and months, and it was a big garden. And he said, I need you to look after it. So first job, first maintenance job. Still what we'd love to do, build a job, look after it. Build a job, look after it. So that just grew. It's a funny thing. They're different staff. They're different everything. The day COVID sort of got announced, say we had 300 clients of varying amounts of hours a week or whatever fortnight. 26 cancelled the day it was announced. I think we all probably thought we were going broke that day. How we're going to pay the wages, how we're going to keep the doors open. We're done. Now we've never faced anything like this. I'm non-political, but whoever thought up JobKeeper took the pressure off everyone that owns a business. They took the pressure off that day that you can still pay your staff, you can still do some work, and then we can find out what happens. That's settled. 24 of those clients have come back. And I think if you remembered, I said we had 300. We're now at 612. So we've doubled in our maintenance. since the start of COVID.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's insane. So
that's an insane thing. But the guys and girls that are on maintenance, that's what they want to be, gardeners. The stability that we offer, the jobs we offer, we don't really mow freeways and stuff like that. That's not what we do. We do mostly high-end domestic. We do lots of mums and dads, 2 hours a fortnight. We travel anywhere, which not many of our competitors would do. I understand that there's, programmed and super gardens, but they're doing much more factory and stuff than we are. Skyline are doing shopping centres. That's not who we're trying to be. We're really trying to be reliable. Probably half our work for the construction guys comes off those 600 clients. Oh, we want this done. We want that mulched. We want a whole new garden. Yeah, I've never understood why everyone doesn't have maintenance. Never understood it at all. But that's so it is. And probably half our new clients come from other landscapers giving out our name.
Yeah,
that's great. It's fantastic for us and fantastic for them because they give out a name of a garden that they think is going to get well looked after. But as I say, the guys and girls that do maintenance all love it.
Yeah, it makes sense that they'll love it because it's kind of a mix between, like when you were talking about going to the same place every day for a job. Yeah. There's a little bit of that in terms of they go back to the same jobs, but you can also see the satisfaction of how they're maintaining it and how it's growing.
Yeah, it really is. And most of the team leaders have been with us a long, long time, and they're happy. But there is that sameness, but not the same. Not every day is the same or anything like that. And as a rule, 95% of those clients are so happy. We get emails, phone calls, text messages, photos. So it's a happy environment.
Yeah. And from a landscape construction point of view, it's awesome seeing a project that you built go to its potential as well.
As I said, we've got a few regular landscapers that give out our name. That's who I was meeting with this morning, and they give out our name on every job they finish, and we win it. And they're so happy. And I go, we don't have to go back and plant one plant, or we don't have to go back and fix one sprinkler. They just ring you guys, and that's what we're geared around doing. So it takes a lot of pressure, but it gives them a lot of pride in that job that they put their heart and soul into.
Yeah.
So it's something I'd recommend to every landscaper, not to give out my name, by the way, but to build a relationship with a maintenance gardener, maybe in their area or that they could get on well with, and pass that on. I think it keeps their job good. Their client stays involved and likes that the ones that give, they always remember who they got our name from, and they'll use them for landscaping. So it's not like going to hurt your business. Yeah, it's just going to make you feel better.
Yeah,
and have pride in the job you built.
Yeah. Now, with I heard a story. I don't know if it's true or not about your apprentices, but when you send them to school, they don't go there to do landscape construction. You send them to do horticulture because you can teach them the construction things on site.
Yeah, that's predominantly right. That was probably always right, and still to this day we like that. Probably the only development that's happened is we do use a little bit of that off-site training. I think there's more companies than Murray Mallee, but that's an example. Those guys might do that. That'd be more like a 24-year-old doing an apprenticeship that would go to that Murray Mallee type thing. So they might do landscape construction. But as a rule, I still believe that. Here's my theory, and so they're all my own. There's only one way to pave correctly. But if I turn up to do a quote and I'm talking about the beautiful plants and the soil being correctly prepped and all that, and your skill set is, we're going to do the beautiful paving. Well, yeah, so what? Yeah, we're all going to do beautiful paving. So I think it's a skill set that if you've got some horticulture, when you're 40, 45, 50, you've got more than I can pave. So I think the landscape course is just too strong towards bricks and mortar. We can teach them all of that, but the horticulture and that confidence in themselves to have horticulture, I think gives them a career well beyond their muscles and their back giving out. So that's the strength of that conversation, but it's quite true.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. So when I did my apprenticeship, it was the TAFE that I went to, they didn't have a landscape construction course. So it was a certificate in horticulture and landscape, was in brackets, but there was, I think, 3 landscapers, and there was like turf people and nursery people, just everyone within horticulture was all in the same class. So mine was very horticultural based. And then since my employees have started, now there is a certificate in landscaping, and there's nothing that they've learnt that I don't know. So you can learn everything on the job construction wise.
So I still fully believe in that theory, and it still works. I just think that horticulture is the broader stroke, and that all those other components you learn at work, and you can learn all you like at school on how to mix mud, but you're the boss. You're going to tell them how you want it mixed.
Yeah.
And as simple as that. And they can listen and learn all they like at school, but but school's more likely to teach them about soil and irrigation and all those horticultural components, which ultimately make the job.
Yeah.
The best landscapes have got plants and all sorts of other components. So I really believe in that. Probably the other bit that all the apprentices, before they start on, meet their mum or dad. It's a bit of a different world. There's not always a mum and dad. So I firmly believe in knowing who their mum and dad are. And if you think about maybe an 18 or a 19-year-old, you think that they sometime in the next couple of years, their nan and pop are going to die, and they're going to need some support. They're going to maybe be introduced to drugs and other things. And I want to be able to ring mum or dad and say, hey, what's wrong with Joel? What's the matter? He wasn't like this. Maybe their pet dog that they got when they were 12 passes away when they're 22. And I want mum to be able to ring me and say, look, John's not going to be in. He's a bit upset about his dog. And I fully understand that. But I want it. It's a 4-year commitment. It's a pretty big one, but I want it to be longer. So I really believe mum and dad have got every right to be involved. So I like them to know who I am, ring up, come and see me, and help them through what is a pretty 18 to 25 is a big change in every young person's life. So
I reckon the parents would love that as well. Like if they got an 18-year-old kid who's going to go and start in a big construction company, they'd you get a bit worried about them, but
correct. And they generally come in and we sit in the front room, which has got some trophies and pictures of going to Chelsea and pictures of Mifkas and pictures of beautiful gardens, and mum and dad are sitting there going, you be good. I also like to remind mum and dad that it's a hard job, that's hard work, and in the winter they're going to get cold and wet. And I need mum and dad to say, go to work today, come on. You got told it was cold and wet and hard. So, and I think that's I think it gives mum and dad confidence that, it's a nice thing. When I was my apprentice, the CEO, or he was the city engineer, came around and met my mum and dad. That's where I learnt that from. Oh. So he came around and introduced himself to my mum and dad and said, we're offering Martin a job. And my mum and dad were pretty stoked by that. And, he's the big boss. And so I think it's still got merit. So apprentices are a massive part of who we are. Some of them take 4 years, some take 7 to get qualified. But it's a good setup for them.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I was speaking with Peter Donegan in the last episode, and he mentioned that you, and I didn't know this, but you were the first Australian company to go to Chelsea. Yeah,
so we really lucky involved. So it was a garden that was designed by Jim Fogarty, and Clive Larkman and Di Larkman had supported that garden, and it won Best in Show at Mifkas. And then we looked to Wes Fleming thought it was a good idea, and Greg Hooton, so Wes from Fleming's, thought it was a good idea that we go to Chelsea. So Wes stumped up the bond and the finances to make it happen. So, anyone that's been to Chelsea in that period of time owes a gratitude to the Fleming's family. They were fantastically supportive of the whole journey, and we were lucky enough to be the first ones to go on that journey, designed by Jim. Mark did so much of the logistics behind the scenes of transport and ships and containers and so much paperwork and stuff. So that was really Mark's greatest journey, was the Chelsea journey. And we were lucky enough to be the first Australians to go and do a construction on a shoestring budget, but that budget was highly supported by the Flemings, nurseries and family. And then they went on and eventually got Phil Johnson to the Best in Show. But that's the start of the journey, and Phil was the end of the journey, and Flemings and Wes were massive. And there's a lot of people that I can mention a few, Scotty Wind and Mark Browning and Jason Hodges, and all of those would owe such gratitude to the Flemings. Yeah. Jack Merlot. It's a great list of lineups that got to go on that journey, but we were first, and that was just a fantastic journey. So we all out, I think 14 of our staff. My wife came as the cook, and we just had a ball. Yeah, it's a great memory.
How many times have you been there to Chelsea?
Me, 5. Yeah, so been lucky to go on a few different occasions, and then I've loved every minute of it. It's a great journey, and we met a girl called Keiko, who's a Japanese gardener that works for us. We met her at Chelsea. She was there with Koji. Koji is coming back to Melbourne this year, so he's a Japanese designer. We just 2 years ago, just before COVID, had a staff member. We've had some exchanges with English companies, so it's just been a journey beyond belief. Yeah.
Mm. So, and when did the first Mifkas garden? How did that come about?
For us, we got asked to do a little bit of nothing, to be honest, and sort of fell in love with it. It was for a nursery group. I don't think it even exists anymore. That we did the front of their stand, and then the next year, Greg Hooton asked us to help Newports, and we did a garden unknown to us. It was designed by Carolyn and Joby Blackman. So 25 years on, we're best of friends and really good friends. And it was designed by them, and we built it. It was called the Teddy Bears Picnic. And that was probably our 3rd year, but that was it. We were bitten by the bug from that day on, and just loved it. Loved every minute of it, and just grew and got more involved, and our staff have loved it, and just the opportunity to meet other like-minded people, to meet every other landscaper and designer. It was just a nursery. It's just been born out of, so much of our life is born out of Mifkas. Mm. Yeah, so we've not missed a Mifkas ever. So we love it. It's in-house, in our blood. A big part of who we are.
And do you enjoy working with the international designers as well?
Oh yeah, that's been a great journey. I suppose anyone can do it if they want, but for me, Peter Donegan, he's in Ireland. I'm meeting him on Teams once a week, giving him the confidence. He can look at our website and think, well, they're going to deliver for me. So for them, it takes away that whole concern. So I think it's just a great opportunity for us and for my staff and guys and girls to meet new people, have different understandings. Look, I love working with designers, but Mifkas is an even better place to work with designers. But the international whole concept has been brilliant for us. Yeah.
And And speaking of Mark as well, so there's the best construction of the garden show is an award named after him, the Mark Benz Construction Award.
Yeah, the Mark Benz Construction Award. We've been lucky enough to win it a couple of times. Very big in my guys and my life and heart. So we were building a garden. Mark had been, so I can't remember what year, sorry about that, but Mark had been diagnosed and had been told that he hasn't got long left to live. So it was the Sunday that we were building, so the show's going to open on the Wednesday. He came in, he was very frail, and Greg Hooton and Langers, the great friend of the show, organised a golf cart to drive Mark around the show and show him everything that we were building and everyone. And again, I suppose Jason Hodges says this better than anyone, that the Melbourne Victorian Landscape Association landscapers, he loves more than the New South Wales ones. He feels part of Victoria, but the garden show offers that camaraderie. So for anyone that's never been or never built or never helped, come and help someone. Come and labour, come and be there, and you'll see camaraderie that the garden next door needs help, or they've run out of turf, or they're running out of time, or they've run out of mulch, and everyone bends over backwards to help each other. It's a unique thing. So you end up with show friends, which can be the security guards or anything. So Mark got driven around the show, and Langers, in his famous "Only Langers Can Say," said to Mark, "Hey Mark, when I haven't been that good in my life, when you get up top, can you put in a good word for me?" So I thought, all right, that's a brave thing to say to the man who's only got, it turned out he only had 3 days to live. But everybody just stopped and talked to him. And he finished his life with that as a great piece of it. And Greg Hooton said, "We're going to name the Best Construction Award after you." And he was stoked. But as he was leaving, he walked up the hill and he looked back down at the garden we were building. And for some reason, someone who's about to pass away has got great wisdom, according to, that's how I thought. I better listen really close. And he got up really close and he pointed down to the garden and he said, "You missed a bit up in the top right-hand corner." So that was at the time, but now thinking back, it was a great thing. Have a look back from further, have a look at your work. If you missed a bit, go and fix it. They're not bad messages in that. So he was wise. So awfully proud that the award has been named after him. Every year I look really carefully who's won it. And I think predominantly, maybe the judges, but Brian Rankin's one of the head judges of that award. And he's nailed it every year. Every year, the people that win that award have deserved it. And so it's a great moment in our life. Mandy and I go to the breakfast to hear who's won it. And it's a great testament to that. But the missed bit is detail. That's what he's telling us, detail. So we'll remember that and hopefully live up to it.
Yeah, the first garden show I ever built was in 2011. That's when I first knew about it. And I always just thought that'd be, because I've always been more construction than design. So I've cared more about that. So that award is something I thought would be the most amazing thing ever to win, to the point now I would rather win that than best in show. You've got some competitors for that. I know that Jason thinks that's the best award, and Scotty and Dean Herald, and we certainly do. So because there was no award for that before, it felt a bit, really? Come on, we're building these things, but to get rewarded with that is just fantastic. And you mentioned you do 5-year plans a fair bit. So what's sort of looking ahead for the business? Is there anything you can share for the 5 years you're looking to move?
Yeah. So obviously, it doesn't take long if you go back through the maths to work out that I'm closer to the end of my career than the start. We have a great plan of middle-aged and young people that are the future of the business rather than me. So I see myself having a few more years yet. By the way, I'm not retiring, not interested. Love coming to work. I get here early and I leave late. I love every day. I love the young people. I love what we do. I love the industry. They're words that just, if I ever can't say those, that's the day I'll get out of the way. So we've got some great people in a training program to become the next running of the business. So, yeah, it's not really up for sale, whereas there'd be plenty of other guys that are my vintage, that would be their way out, is to sell the business. No, we're growing the business and we will continue to grow it. And then I'll continue to help them grow it as best I can. And when they tell me to get out of the way, I will. But for now, well, we've all got great passion for it. That's it. But the 5-year plan is to genuinely keep going and growing.
Yep.
And offer. If I use that word, there's 80 people. A lot of them are dependent on their families, their kids, their life is dependent on this being a successful business. I owe that to them to keep that happening. So there's a lot of mouths to feed out there off this business. So that's only fair that I repay those people. So they'll often ask me, especially when it's a bit, how long are you staying, Marty? Well, I'm staying. So that's good. It's good for them, good for me. So they feel safe. I feel good.
Mm. And if anyone ever did take over, they've got some fair old big shoes to fill.
Yeah, we've got a group of people that will take over, and they're easy to work out who they are and meet and understand, and and they get a good say. They're well listened to, and they've got a good say in it already, so that's good.
Last question for you is, who would be someone you recommend for the podcast?
Yeah, look, I mentioned Carolyn and Jody Blackman from Vivid Design. I think that there has got the best integrity of any people I've ever met. So I think they have their own philosophies on the way the business and life should be, and horticulture, and they've got a great pedigree and journey. So I think they're not as well known as others maybe, but they'd be fantastic for the rest of the people to hear.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, thank you so much for sharing everything on today. I was getting goosebumps when you were talking about how much you care about your apprentices and getting their parents in. So, yeah, it's been awesome to talk to you, and thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, that's all right. It's been good fun. Yeah.